Hi there, Karen Flaherty from Living by Human Design. Hope you're doing well today. Today we're going to be talking in the Human Design Weather about the Gate 9, which is all about focus. Okay, great. So we've got the Sun in Gate 9 this week, which started the evening of November 27th, and it goes until December 3rd, also in the evening. And we've also got the Earth in Gate 16, which is enthusiasm. So these are a nice pair because it's focus down here coming off the bottom of the root, and for the Gate 9 and the 16 is here coming off the throat. And together these make a nice pairing because you could be focused on something and having enthusiasm about it, and they play well together. We start the week with no definition, and then but then we quickly move into by the 28th we move into this will center definition as well as the spleen, and it connects with the channel of what we call surrender, but it's also colloquially called the channel of the salesperson. And so we have this energy that's with the spleen that's very nurturing, and the energy of the will center that's very empowering and willful. And so you put those together and you get, the combination with the 44 and the 26, finding the right people and persuading them or telling them or educating them about what's going on. And then together we call that the channel of the salesperson. So together it's this 40-26 that becomes the channel of surrender. And then Jupiter went direct on the 24th. So that leaves now Mars, Uranus, and Neptune still retrograde. So with this Gate 9, it's all about focus. It's the taming power of the small, right? It's like taking all the details together and taming them somehow so that we can focus on things. Or it's also called energy for detail in the original I Ching. So this is potential that can be fulfilled through detailed attention to all pertinent aspects, right? It's focusing on the details and making sure that everything's just the way you want it so that things can get accomplished. The incarnation crosses this week are crosses of planning, focus, and identification. And then in the Gate 16, we've got the Gate of enthusiasm, which is just what it sounds like. It's enthusiasm or skills. It's part of the channel of talent. And this is the great art of enriching life by the harmonic channeling of energy. So wherever it's basically all about attraction, right? Or the law of attraction and intention. Wherever your enthusiasm goes, wherever your passion goes, wherever you're most excited about, that's where the energy goes, and that's where you can find success. Enthusiasm is a big part of success for a lot of people. And in the gene keys, indifference is the shadow, versatility is the gift, and mastery is the CD. So in the graphic for the gene key 9, Richard says the only force in the universe that is truly invincible is love. So he talks about love a lot, but this gene key 9 can be focused when we're doing something that we love, when we're doing something that really makes a difference for us, and it is coming off the bottom of the sacral. And don't forget, the sacral is all about workforce and life force energy. So it's one of those gates where if you love what you're doing, you can be really focused on it. And you can find the passion that you need to focus and get things done with this gate 9. And I'll also say that the Gate 9 or the gene key 9 is one that gets a bad rap as procrastination. And I'll just say that the focus that you need will come when you need it. The procrastination or the supposed procrastination that occurs prior to getting focused is really, I think, an illusion. It's not excuses. It's not, putting things off until you finally have to do them. It's a matter of timing with this sacral and getting to the point of timing with the Gate 9 so that you can focus on it. And when you focus on it, you sit down to do it, you will get it done. So it's much better to wait with that sacral timing and to do it when it feels right to do it and get it done that way than to try to push it along and to try to, some people say, oh, we'll just do a little bit each day. Well, sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. It depends on the project. It depends on the outcome, right, that you're looking for. Yourself, and if it works for you, if you happen to have this Gate 9 in your chart, and it works for you to wait until you have the right timing to get it done, then do it then. Because what's happening in the meantime, what's happening in the run up to when you finally sit down to do it and focus on it, is that you're thinking about it. You're ruminating about it. You're wondering this and you're wondering that, and you're trying to figure out the best way to do it. And usually what happens when it comes to focus is that you'll focus on it and get it done as efficiently as humanly possible, because you're in the right timing, you've got the right imagination and focus around it, and it's the efficient way for you to get it done. And you've got all your, basically eggs in one basket, where you know exactly what has to be done and in what order and how it can best be accomplished so that everybody wins. It's really quite an interesting energy. And it's there to be used. It's not about procrastination. Do something fun in the meantime until you're getting this done, because that interesting stuff, that walk in nature, that being with friends or playing with your dog or doing something that's taking your mind off it, will actually bring you new thoughts that will allow you to accomplish it in a much better way. Anyway, all that being said, the Gene Key 9, the shadow is inertia, the gift is determination, and the CD is invincibility. And that determination comes when you're ready to do something. It's when you're focused, that determination is there. And he says most human beings live where they simply get by, lives in which they become victims of all the details around them. And so again, it's like, we think we're just getting by, and that we're procrastinating or not doing the things that we really want to do, whereas, we become victims of everything that's around us. And he also says all those little acts done with heart begin to build up an inner momentum that eventually becomes unstoppable. And that's where those little acts that you do before you get to focus on something important is what leads up to the successful completion of that project. So we've got a lot of people born this week. The right angle cross of planning, focus, and identification are the 3 incarnation crosses. And so we've got everybody from Mark Twain, Maria Callas, who was an opera singer, Christian Doppler, who created the Doppler radar instruments, Winston Churchill, Britney Spears, Berry Gordy, famous producer in Motown, Bette Midler, who was May Alcott, who wrote Little Women, Shirley Chisholm, who we'll be talking about, and Jon Stewart. Okay, so Shirley Chisholm was born on November 30th, 1924. So she would have been 98 years old this year. She was born in Brooklyn, New York, but she passed away in 2005. She's a projector with a 4-6 profile and the right angle cross of planning. So she had that will center defined and the solar plexus defined, and then the root. And that was all she had in her chart. But she's the first Black congresswoman. She was elected in 1968. She started serving January of 1969, and she served until 1983. So she was there for 7 terms. And she was representing a district in Brooklyn called Bedford-Stuyvesant. The districts had been redrawn, and she was the first congresswoman from that district. But she was the first Black congresswoman ever, and it was a big deal at that time. Women, she later on in her biography and a number of other interviews said that she actually felt like she was discriminated against more because she was a woman than because she was Black. And of course that's saying something, but there weren't very many women in Congress at that time. I'm not sure how many there were, but there weren't a lot. She was also the first woman and African-American to run for president in 1972 of a major party. And she, of course, didn't win at that point, but she was the first to do that. And so she was a projector. She didn't have any children. She was a 4-6 profile. So, relatively outgoing for a projector, and having 3 different motors, she had a lot of energy as a projector. Most projectors don't have those 3 motors. Although we talked about Goldie Hawn last week as a projector, and she actually had two motors. So Shirley Chisholm had a little more. She had 3 motors: the will, the solar plexus, and the root center. And so she got a lot done. She was a teacher. She was very much involved with children before she became Congresswoman, and she was very much interested in their health and nutrition and their welfare. And so when she got to Congress, that's what she wanted to work on as much as she could. Because she was very junior, she was working on the House Agriculture Committee. And so she actually talked to somebody about that and said, why, what can I possibly do with this? How can this help? How can being in agriculture possibly help inner city children? And so the person she was talking to, who happened to be a very famous rabbi, Rabbi Shearson, said, why don't you feed the children? Help to get food into the inner cities and into helping the children who are suffering from malnutrition and not having enough to eat. And so that's what she did. And so it became a new program that helped inner city children, and it's become what is still to this day known as the SNAP program for women, infants, and children. It's sometimes known as SNAP, sometimes known as WIC. It's the program that allows children in the cities to get the meals that they need. So whether it's in school or through milk and cheeses and things like that, it's still around to this day. So it was an important program, and one that has lived on. She died in 2005 and got the posthumous Medal of Freedom from President Obama, and really was thought of, as somebody who was definitely ahead of her time, but did whatever she could with the resources she had while she was there. So she focused. She was focused. She had enthusiasm. She had that will center that allowed her to get a lot done, and the emotional solar plexus, which was also connected here through the 1949, which is all about family and tribe and keeping the culture together. It's about the 49 is all about principles and revolution, and also the 19 is about sensitivity. So of course she was sensitive to the needs of the people that she was serving and working with. She had the 50, so she was very caring, again, about her culture and whatever group she was part of. She had the 28, which is the gate of struggle. But she said that even with all this openness, she lived for the first. She was born in Brooklyn, but because her parents were so busy working, and they had 4 children, Shirley and her sisters were sent to live in Barbados with her maternal grandmother. And so she was raised very strict and disciplined, but also very well educated in that tradition. And she says that, if she can read and write and speak so beautifully, it's because of her upbringing in Barbados. And she always considered herself a Barbadian American. She also had the gate 22, which is all about charm and grace. She had the 6, which is a very protective energy, right? Protecting family and friends and neighbors and community. She had this entire 4037, which is all about making the promises and keeping the promises. It's about negotiations. Probably made her very capable with regard to all the things she needed to do in Congress, and especially around community. And she had the grade 30, which is intensity, which kind of amps up everything else in the chart and made her a very intense person. And she was known to be intense. She had a lot of openness. She had a lot of wisdom there. So besides being a projector, besides being able to come up with new ideas and find ways to implement them, she also had all this openness in the head and the ajna, the throat, open throat. Of course, she had the 16 off there, 62, which is the gate of details. She had the 11, which is all about ideas, 4, which is all about possible answers. She had the 13. A lot of people liked talking to her and she would listen. She was a good listener. 7 is all about small d, democratic leadership. The 44 is about finding the right people to work with in terms of staff and work for her in Congress, or work with her in Congress. And of course, she had that 9, and she had it both conscious and unconscious. So she had it in her conscious sun, but she also had it down here in Jupiter. And so she was somebody who could focus when she needed to. So she did have in her Chiron, I just noticed she had the gate of shock, which she doesn't actually have in her chart, and the 42, which is about finishing things. So she could be shocking and could get things done. So that's Shirley Chisholm. She'll be, as I said, having that 98th birthday. She would have been 98 and having her birthday on November 30th. And I'll actually be attending a ceremony in Palm Coast to give her an award on November 30th. So now I realize why they chose that date to have the award be given posthumously and naming a trail in her honor in Palm Coast, where she lived at the end of her life. So happy birthday, Shirley. And I hope you have a wonderful week. I hope you're able to focus on something that's important for you, or something that you've been perhaps putting off for a while. It is a good time to focus, but don't push it. If it doesn't feel like it's the right timing, that doesn't make this week the right timing to do it. But if there are things that you want to focus on, or things that you want to get done, this might be a good week to try it. So be well.